Hey guys, and welcome to our third episode of the Backyard Blitz here at Backyard Sports Media. Tonight with me, I got Gary Freeze. Gary, what's going on, man?
No, not a whole lot, man. Getting excited for these games. It's been nice to see these playing games get the engine prime. Tomorrow kicks off the big dance, and we should have some really good games this year.
And I got Raul Herrera's. What's up, man?
What is going on? I'm looking forward to see the demise of Duke. Let's get it.
So we're obviously talking March Madness. Probably, I mean, it depends on who you talk to. A lot of people would say the Super Bowl, but I'm here to say it's the biggest sporting event of the year. The NCAA gets filthy rich. We're talking that Nick Nolte blue chips money. Ricky Rowe, put it in the duffel bag. Now, we won't go into that kind of stuff tonight. We're going to talk first. We'll jump right into it. Toughest draw. We're talking regions here. Which one seed is going to have the toughest draw this year? I'm going to kick it to you first, Gary, and we'll hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about, toughest overall draw, who's got the most, tough teams in their bracket versus who's going to see the toughest team early. And for me, it's Virginia for both, honestly. They've got the possibility of facing Creighton in the second round. Creighton's a good team, solid. They could face Kentucky or Arizona, who, in my opinion, they're underrated, underseeded. Arizona, I think, got a little bit of a drop in seed because of the FBI thing, and Kentucky struggled mid-season, and I just think the committee just didn't have the faith in them coming into the tournament. But, man, they've been playing good. They won the SEC tournament, and they've been playing defense. And with all those athletes, that could be a real tough draw for Virginia. And then looking forward in terms of overall tough draw, in the bottom half of that bracket, they've got two conference champions, and we're not talking pushover conferences. We're talking Cincinnati and the AAC, who won the regular season and the tournament. And then you've got Tennessee, who won the regular season SEC championship, co-champion with Auburn, but they still won the championship. That's a tough bracket, in my opinion, and they could face a lot of really tough teams all the way down the stretch. Arizona and Kentucky won their conference tournaments. Then they could face possibly another conference champion. So for me, Virginia's got the toughest draw overall, and they could face the toughest competition early.
Raul. And I called you Raul Herrera's when we started this.
You did.
I did.
I tried to let it go.
Well, I'm not letting that shit go.
All right, listen. It's okay. I forgive you. You don't have a soul. I got to speak for your soul last week, and so I'm going to, with that, I'm going to let that slide. It's okay.
Toughest draw, man. Get it.
I mean, I don't know how I can – you can't disagree with Gary on this. Honestly, I think that Virginia is going to have the toughest draw. I mean, you're talking about the potential of going up against Kentucky and Arizona. Again, underrated teams, and they're both solid teams as far as their depth and their bench, as far as their shooting, passing. I mean, everything. They're just solid all-around teams. And then on top of that, they're losing a player going into, the number one seed. That's going to be a really tough matchup. I don't see – and then the possibility, I have them in my Final Four. Or the only chance I have them in my Final Four is if they beat Cincy, and I don't see Cincinnati losing to Virginia. So I think that Virginia, in my opinion, definitely has the toughest matchup.
And I agree with you guys. I disagree and I agree, I guess, is how I want to say it. I believe overall, I think the Midwest region, Kansas, is the one seed there. I think they have the toughest draw simply because Duke and Michigan State, who will eventually most likely take one another out, they're going to have to take one another out to get that far. But I just feel like those are two of the tougher teams. To me, and here's my part of the show where I'm going to give Duke a little praise, I feel like when Duke is clicking, they're the best team in this tournament. I do feel that way. I don't like that I feel that way. I know you Duke fans right now are like, hell yeah, I hate you guys. And Michigan State, I have a lot of praise for. I think, eventually they're going to get the job done. But as far as being in trouble early on, I agree with you guys. I think that, teams like Arizona, they're going to pose a problem. And, Virginia, we've seen them in trouble before. They got bailed out by a inbound violation, a game that they were dead to rights. And it's, you know, it's nothing against Virginia. I think they played phenomenal basketball this year, but I do think that they're going to be, as far as one seeds go, they're going to be in trouble the quickest as far as this tournament goes. You guys got any closing statements on this subject, or can we get moving along? Good to go? Look at that. I like it when it goes this way. So next on the agenda here, we're going to be talking upsets. One upset for each region, and by upset, we're talking, you know, like a 10 or 11 seed or worse. I don't want to hear any about how you think the 9 seed is going to beat the 8 seed. What upsets do you guys see? Raul Herrera's, I'm going with you first. Give me your 4 upsets, one for each region.
Oh, man. Okay, so this is tough. Honestly, I would honestly love to see a team like South Dakota take out Ohio State. Now, the likelihood of all this is completely null and void. I mean, just in general. I'm just gonna go from one each half of the bracket. So I think I would love to see Ohio State just take an absolute bomb against South Dakota. I think that they definitely had to fight all season to get into the spot that they needed to get into. And I would just – that's the team – that's going to be my underdog team for that side of the bracket. The other side, I've thought about this over and over again. I haven't personally watched enough Wichita State, but I would like to see Marshall turn around and take Wichita State. And I don't see West Virginia losing to Murray. So I think that Marshall would end up taking West Virginia and then end up losing to them. But, yeah, so I think Wichita State would be the upset that I could see against Marshall.
Gary, who you got for upsets, man?
Yeah, I mean, Raul stole my thunder a little bit on Marshall. I thought I was going to break some new ground, but Wichita State, they're not the same team that we've seen Greg Marshall put out there every week. They're, you know, every year for the last, 5-7 years, they've been a 1 seed in the tournament. They've, really been on everybody's radar. And this year they're just, to me, they're not the same team. And Marshall's big and they're athletic, and they've got 3 guys that average at least 15 points. So I see Marshall as a potential upset there for Wichita State. And then moving to the South, I've got Loyola Chicago. Miami, I think, is overrated. They should have been a lower seed. Loyola Chicago probably could have been a little bit of a higher seed. So I think that's the perfect formula for an upset, especially considering Loyola Chicago's on a 10-game win streak coming into the tournament. That's usually the recipe for disaster for these teams that lose in their conference tournament. We always see these mid-majors, these small conference teams that are on a hot streak, 10, 12, 15-game win streaks. They come in and they're the ones that pose the upset. So I'll take that. And then moving on to South Dakota State facing Ohio State. South Dakota State's got an NBA prospect on that team, and he averages a double-double. Mike Daum is legit. And Ohio State, to me, should have been as low as a 9 seed, but no higher than 7. And I think, again, it's just kind of that recipe for disaster for the higher seed. And South Dakota State's, I think that's my lock upset. You can book that one. Take it to Vegas. Don't bet your mortgage, but take it to Vegas. And the last one I'm looking at is New Mexico State Aggies. They can fill the cup. They've got great senior leadership on that team. But in that same region, pay attention to the ASU Syracuse winner tonight. These playing games usually yield somebody that goes on to win another game. So pay attention to a couple of these playing games. These 11 seeds could possibly go and win another game.
Yeah, and I agree with the playing thing. It happens. We've seen years where people said Syracuse didn't deserve to be there before. I may have even muttered the sentence out of my mouth. Syracuse to me is a little bit like the Buffalo Bills, local type team, and you get a little upset. And I'm not one to support my local teams. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm really kidding because I'm about to get into it a little bit here, where I'm going to go on to support some local teams, even though I don't necessarily love it. I'll start with the South. We'll get the most controversial one out of the way right now. I'm looking at UB. Yeah, and a lot of people don't want to touch this because it's Arizona, but I feel like there might be a bit of a distraction still with Arizona. And, I think that UB has played their asses off. They can score the basketball, and they score a lot, nearly 85 points a game. And you got to look out for that senior guard, Wes Clark. I mean, the kid is a problem. The young man is a problem. We're not talking that one-and-done NBA stuff. And I just feel like this is like the ultimate trap game for Arizona, who, if I'm actually picking my bracket, I'm not picking Buffalo. This was my upset. I felt like the South, to me, was the hardest one to find an upset. Personally, I didn't see a lot going on over there. So I'm rolling with that Buffalo. Let's go. Get them. So like horns. These are Buffalo horns here. That type of thing. So, no. Raul's like, I'm from Texas. That doesn't look like any Buffalo I've seen. Moving on. I'm going to go to the East, where, damn it, I'm going to do it again. And I'm going with St. Bonaventure. Don't sleep on him, baby. Corny Stockard was back. We saw it. We saw what can happen there. This team they're hungry, man. That's probably the best way to describe them. Olean, New York, is about – now I drive kind of fast, so they're about 30 minutes that way. Great basketball town. Best Gus Macker basketball. If you guys don't know what Gus Macker is, you better look it up online, that I've ever played in. And, I think that this team is going to be one of those teams who wants it a lot, and that can be dangerous.
That defense was ferocious against UCLA, too. So look out for them. I like that pick.
And, yeah, and people were – I saw people saying UCLA was going to blow them out, and that obviously didn't happen. Moving right along into the West, I have San Diego State. You're talking about 5 players on that team, just a fun fact, who play about 25 minutes or more per game. One guy plays a little less than 25 minutes a game. And you know what? They all average double-digit scoring, and it's a total team effort there. This team knows how to play. They get some older kids, and I just think the team effort sometimes here's the thing. In the NBA, one guy, LeBron James, James Harden, these guys, they can go out there and just beat you down, and they can win the game. They can win a series. College basketball, I almost feel like it's the opposite. We see a lot of teams who have one great player, and they get murdered. So I feel like the team effort there is going to help them. And then finally in the Midwest, I've got the Aggies, the New Mexico State Aggies, right? Watch out for Zach Lofton. He gets buckets, 19.8, almost 20 points per game. And I just feel like these are my upsets. So anybody else want to touch on anything else as far as upset go? No, the Jeopardy clock.
This is the year that we could see a lot of crazy upsets. And it seems we talk about this every year, but I look at the teams that are in the top 4 or 5 seeds. I don't trust a lot of them. I really don't. Virginia just lost their best bench player who comes off the bench. He's a lightning rod off the bench. So Virginia's definitely vulnerable. Xavier, Providence kind of made them look average. Maybe Providence was playing above their level, whatever it may be. But these top 4 or 5 seeds in each of these brackets, I find it less and less that I trust them. So we could easily see some double-digit seeds in the Elite Eight, even in the Final Four again. We've only seen it a couple times, but we could easily see it again this year just because this season has been really kind of roller coaster. I didn't even know Kansas was going to be a 1 seed. I mean, I'm being sarcastic, but like that's the quality difference between the top and the bottom. Kansas to me was maybe a above average team, but they're a 1 seed. Everybody thinks the Big 12 was the best conference in basketball. Kansas to me is a above average team. I don't know. We could see some really crazy stuff. A lot of double digit seeds moving on. And of course, as I say that, it's going to be chalk all the way, and the 4-1 seeds will be in the Final Four.
And that's just it. I mean, you just never know. I mean, it's truly an amazing time for sports. I mean, it's got to be, if nothing else, maybe the most fun. It's the most interactive, I think, time of the year for sports because everybody, Debbie at the office, she spills coffee all over herself. She gets lipstick on her teeth. She plays and she probably wins your pool. So let's just jump right into the Final Four. We can close it down strong tonight. We're talking who do you guys got? And give me who you got them over, as far as the Elite Eight goes. We're going to kick it to you this time, Gary. Who are your Final Four teams?
Let me preface this by saying I don't have a 1 seed in the Final Four. So
okay,
this is the year I think it's going to have. It's one of those things. It's always just kind of there's the steady Eddie that gets into the Final Four, and it's the 1 seed, and they just do it because they've got the good draw, whatever it may be. I don't see that this year. I've got Kentucky beating Cincinnati to get to the Final Four. Kentucky to me is on fire. Calipari, it's that time of year. You trust the coach, et cetera, all those cliches you want to talk about. Kentucky to me has as much talent as any team in the country, and they're playing defense now. That's the difference. They were struggling midseason because they couldn't stop anybody. They didn't want to play defense. I don't know what Calipari did. I have no idea. Maybe Adidas came in and paid him to play defense. I joke. Cut
the check.
Yeah, right? But seriously, Kentucky's playing, in my opinion, Kentucky's playing the best basketball right now. So I got them over Cincy. I've got UNC beating Gonzaga. UNC to me is just that team that they're just always there. Roy Williams will get them ready, and they've got a lot of talent. They've got some upperclassmen that can lead the team, and they've got a good mix of youth and experience. They're going to be able to get there, in my opinion. And I've got Purdue over Nova, and I picked Purdue a month ago. They were on that big streak. I bought the hype. I picked them a month ago, so I'm going to stick by them. I think they've got a lot of talent, a lot of scoring, a lot of ability to shut down other teams. I think Purdue's a pretty complete team. I've got them in the Final Four. And I hate to say it because I really don't like them, but I've got Duke over Kansas into the Final Four. Duke has so many just isolation dominators. Marvin Bagley Jr. the third is just he's going to show his whole ass in this tournament, and we're going to see why he's hyped, why he probably would have been the number 1 overall pick if he'd have been allowed to come out of high school. He's that good. He can shoot the J, rebounds. He's a willing defender. I won't say he's a good defender. He's a willing defender. He's long, so he can disrupt the passing lanes. He can get, bother shots. I don't like to say it, but I got Duke in the Final Four. So I've got Kentucky, UNC, Purdue, and Duke.
And I'll tell you, as a Nova fan, I think I actually said this to you the other day. Purdue scares me a little bit. Frankly, they're a tough team, and I already said at the top of the show how I think that Duke is the best team when it's clicking. Raul, who you got, man?
I'll tell you what, and I'm going to preface everything with this just to set the fucking tone, and I'm going to do it with pinkies out. Fuck Duke.
I'll drink to that.
Amen. So, coming out of the South, I've got Kentucky, Cincy, and I think Cincy's going to take it. I think that Kentucky's a good team, and I have nothing bad to say about Kentucky. I think that Arizona is definitely going to be shook. They'll take them, and then, so I'm definitely going to say Cincy. As far as the West, I'm really a fan of Michigan. I love their basketball program, and I don't know why, and I really shouldn't, because I don't really like anything that comes out of the North, and that's just the narrow-minded Texas way of life. But I'm going to say that Michigan is going to take Gonzaga, and with all due respect to UNC, North Carolina has the elite premier program. Absolutely, they're always a top contender. Going all the way back to fucking MJ. North Carolina is great. I can't say anything bad about them, but I'm going to say Michigan. And then coming out of the East, I think that Gary touched it. I think that Purdue's going to definitely get into the 8, but I think Nova's going to take him. Purdue is on fucking fire. They're aggressive, but I think Nova is just a lot more established. They have that precedent already set, and again, they're a repeat contender every fucking year. And so coming out of the Midwest, I think it's going to come down to Kansas and Duke, and I think Kansas is going to take the win. And this is purely because fuck Duke. That's it. I've got nothing. Honestly.
Yeah, you don't believe that.
I believe it. And I'll take that mortgage payment whenever Duke does not get into the Final Four. So on that note, fucking suck a dick from the back. So that is my Final Four, brought to you by yours truly.
And for those of you counting at home, There was 5 F-bombs in one spiel by our own Raul.
And someone sucking a dick from the back.
From the back.
From the back.
That's like ass to mouth, man. You don't do ass to mouth. You don't suck it from the back either. So, all this talk about Duke, and I guess I'm just gonna start right there. I don't even have Duke in the Elite Eight. And it's crazy because you guys heard me. You were like, wait, wasn't this guy just talking about how Duke could be the best team when they're clicking? And I still agree with that. But they're going to play Michigan State. And I think Michigan State is tough, man. And we're talking about a team. This team is always there every year. I mean, it's just they're there. It doesn't matter. We get new guys. We wash our hands like a Villanova, like Raul was saying. So I've got Michigan State over Kansas going to the Final Four there. I think Kansas probably does enough to get it done. I don't love Kansas. I'm not in love with them, but I think that they're going to do enough to get to that Elite Eight round. I think, they're going to lose. Michigan State's going to be in the Final Four. We'll jump up from there, and I've got to take Villanova. I'm scared of Purdue. I really am. I'm scared to death of Purdue. I think it's going to be Purdue and Villanova. I have to believe that Villanova is the better team, and that's trying to put my bias aside. We talked about this a little, Gary, the other day. I mean, Villanova is constantly there. Raul said it before. But the one thing that's different is they actually have NBA players on their roster this year. A couple of them, they have a lottery pick. They might have the College Player of the Year. It's hard to say. So I've got to stick with them. But Villanova, I will say this to you guys. I'm watching you, Villanova, because I know you like to lose to some dog shit teams. And I am a little bit, like that much. That's a lot of it, isn't it? I'm a tiny bit scared of what could happen in that second round to a team like Alabama. They scare me. They really do. I'm being fully honest with you guys. They scare me a little bit. But anyways.
Bama's got a lottery pick.
They do. It's Sexton. I mean, he's tough, and I like him a lot, actually. So I'm excited to watch him play. I wish he was going to be able to play further on in the tournament, but he's losing in that next round.
Sexton almost carried 3 people to a win against 5. They were down a man early in the season and almost came back to win. That's nuts.
Dynamite.
That dude's legit.
I love Sexton, but and I'm sad I'm not going to get to see him play that deep in the tournament. And then my next one, I'm going to save the best for last. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to skirt a little, and I'm going to go Cincy, number 2, over Arizona. And I know I kind of dogged Arizona a little bit. Picking Buffalo is like my upset over there, but it was kind of what I had to do. I do think Arizona's a good team, but I think Cincinnati's tough defense. Defense every year. Cincinnati's one of those teams that can put like 12 guys on a team. None of them can shoot a jump shot, but they'll just be physical, play defense, and it happens all the time. And finally, they're a 2 seed. Usually, they're like an 8 seed or something. So I feel like Cincy's going to be a formidable match. I think they're going to the Final Four. And then here's where I got real fucked up, to borrow a page out of Raul's swear book. I got Missouri over Providence. That's an 8 over a 10 in the Final Four. And if you guys didn't know, I'm drinking the Michael Porter Kool-Aid a little bit.
They shouldn't even have been in the tournament.
Listen, but you want to know what happened? Is dude was banged up, and then he got – this is what goes on. And he got
TV money.
Legit NFL prospect – or NBA NFL out there tackling them. Legitimate NBA prospect. I think Michael Porter Jr. is fantastic. He's a big body, kind of got that build, almost like a Ben Simmons type forward. Shoots the ball well. Can play defense. I'll borrow a page from Gary. Not a great defender, but he's a willing defender. And he's always over on the sideline spotting baddies in the crowd. So I like that. I like his style. And Providence has showed me something as of late. I think Providence is a very good team. But I got Missouri. That's my shot in the dark team. Probably losing the first round. Who knows? Let's get some closing statements, man, because I think we're about wrapped up. Gary, what do you got for us, man?
Strap in. This is going to be a great tournament, honestly. You better stock up on 30 racks of Keystone and get in that couch and put a catheter in. You don't want to leave your seat, honestly. This is going to be a great tournament. I think we're going to see a ton of action. I anticipate just frenetic finishes. We're going to have a lot to talk about each day after each round. There's going to be upsets. There's going to be just people coming on stage that you don't expect to see. And I mean, unless you're really a big college basketball fan, you may not know who Mike Daum is out of South Dakota State, but don't be surprised if you go to the water cooler Friday morning or Monday morning. I can't remember if they play Thursday or Friday, but the next day after South Dakota State upsets Ohio State, and people are asking, who the hell is this Mike Daum kid? He just put 30 and 12 on Ohio State and carried South Dakota State to a victory. That's the sort of thing I think we're going to see in this tournament. We already know the big names, Duke, Kentucky, all those one and done guys that are floating around there. Michael Bridges out of Nova, legitimately, and he's compared to Kawhi Leonard, and it's justified, honestly. Best two-way player in college basketball right now. These names are going to come out during this tournament, and we're going to see some teams that get these upsets, and we're going to be able to watch some of these guys play multiple games. And there's going to be some household names after this tournament that nobody knew, a la Steph Curry. Keep an eye out. This is going to be that tournament. I feel it. We say that a lot each year, and it seems like we don't get quite the number of upsets we wanted, but this is the year. This is the year.
I'm sorry, I was muted. We're going to get Raul's closing statements real quick, but real fast, let's do our salute to service. Raul, take it, and then give us your closing statements afterwards.
All right, so salute to service is going to go to Army Sergeant First Class Mihail Golan. He's a 34-year-old out of Fort Lee, New Jersey. Passed away New Year's Day this year. He was in Nangarhar Province. He was part of 2nd Battalion, 10th Special Forces, and out of airborne out of Fort Carson, Colorado. He passed away after being engaged by small arms fire. He was doing a dismounted patrol in Afghanistan. So this episode's salute is going to go to him. And so drinks up, and until Valhalla, brother, we've got to watch. All right, so to the closing statements. To take a page out of Gary's book, South Dakota State, watch them. Purdue, watch them. They're not going to go anywhere, but watch them. And Nova's going to take it. I'm gonna go ahead and jump on the bandwagon on this and say that Virginia is not going to have what it's going to take to get into the rest of this thing and seal the deal. I'll go ahead and jump on that bandwagon now. Go ahead and put it on record. You heard it here first. However, I think that Nova is going to take it. I think it's going to come down to Nova. I think that they're just pretty much they're going to outclass them. They're going to outplay them. They're going to outshoot them. And I don't see a scenario where Cincy's going to be strong enough to take out Nova. They're too much of a Goliath, in my opinion. And they have definitely made their share of mistakes. You heard Andy say it before, and they have shit the bed against some fucking nobodies. And that's, I don't know how many F words that is. We'll blame the crown. Blame Canada. Blame Canada. So that's the message for today's episode, is blame Canada.
My closing statements. Whatever you guys do, please make sure that you're watching, some of these other teams. I understand everybody's going to be tuning into the UNCs and the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansas and Villanova, Gonzaga, teams that are here every year. Do yourself a favor, watch Rhode Island. Please watch Providence, watch Alabama, watch these teams, because they truly have something to offer and everything is there. And you might surprise yourselves by tuning into some of these teams that you may have thought were shit. These teams are, like Gary was saying, it's wide open this year. So these teams really may be the stars, and there's upsets every single year. So make sure when you're making those revisions tomorrow morning, you're picking some of those guys. I mean, because we know you're making them. I'm making them in the morning. I just told you my Final Four, and that shit might change tomorrow. You might look at my sheet and be like, this son of a bitch lied. But, hey, listen, these are the things that happen. So, on behalf of myself, Raul, Gary, Backyard Sports, until next time, we're out.